Good evening, fellow Toastmasters, our most distinguished guests. If I were to say to you, Guten Morgen, who would know what that means?
Good morning.
What about Hola, ¿cómo estás?
Hello, how are you?
What about répondez, s'il vous plaît? Yes, RSVP. Now we've seen RSVP plenty of times, right? Typically, maybe somebody had a wedding coming up or a graduation or some type of celebratory event. You got a card in the mail, you opened it up, and it said, I need you to RSVP for this event. Are you having a guess? +1, +3, how many in your party? Have you thought about why they sent that card to you? They probably needed to prepare for some type of event, especially if it's a wedding. I know I've RSVP'd to a wedding before, and when I called to confirm that they received my card, I said, hey, is it okay if I bring a guest? And it was a quick no. The places are too expensive. If you don't already have a guest, don't bring one. Now, what would happen if I had not RSVP'd and I brought a guest? That could be pretty chaotic at a wedding, and that's the last thing that needs to happen. So, guys, I want you to think about something. I want you to think about your life for a second. And think about your future self sending you a card. Now, everybody should have a card, right? I want you to write down on the card R.S.V.P. Now, here's how you RSVP for your future. Because again, if you understand, we live on 3 equal planes at all times. Everything you've done in the past has led you up to this moment. The job you have, the study you've done, the things that you've eaten, everything is at this moment right now, right? So that also means everything you're doing today is going to affect what happens in the future, right? So imagine your future self has sent you a card and they're asking you to RSVP for it. So that means you got to do some type of preparation, right? Now, if it was a wedding, maybe you got to get fitted for a tux or get a suit, or maybe you want to fit into that dress. Maybe you want to knock a few pounds off, so you got to eat right. So how do you RSVP for your future? First thing, the R, you got to read. But what do you read? You have to read books that inspire and help you grow. A few of my favorites, Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. That is an absolutely phenomenal book. Dorothea Brand, Wake Up and Live. Summed up in 8 words, act as if it's impossible to fail. Or maybe you read As a Man Thinketh by James Allen. Again, if you read the Bible, it talks about as a man thinking in his heart, so is he. What other books are you reading? One of the things that I wanted to do was to challenge myself to read 40 books this year, because one thing that I've learned over my journey in personal development and business ownership is that leaders are always great readers. And when I'm at my best is when I'm feeding myself the right type of information. Garbage in, garbage out. That's how you would sum a speech up. What you put into your mind is going to come out in a positive or a negative way. Think about all those times you watch those negative shows, the Real Housewives of any country in the world, and you have a conversation or even hear a conversation. There's nothing positive typically about that. But we spend our time feeding our minds with the wrong thing, and then we wonder, why do we have such chaos in our lives? It's because you're feeding yourself the same type of information. Your brain is a sponge, so anything you give it is going to return to you in like kind. The second thing is study. Now, reading and studying are 2 totally different tasks. See, I might read something and forget it by the time I get to the bottom of the page. Am I the only person that's ever done that? I can't tell you how many times I read something and said, what did I just read? And I literally have to start back over until I get it. So when you study, it becomes habitual. See, learning is a repetitious process. The more you go over that same material, the more you start to learn it. Now, one of the things that I've learned from my study habits is as soon as I study it and I learn it, I need to go teach it, because that also reinforces the learning. So who do you also study? You got to study the people who have what you want in life already. Who's your mentor? Who are you spending your time learning from? See, a smart person learns from their own mistakes, right? But a wise person learns from the mistakes of other people. Well, how do you know that if you don't study what they've said? Anytime you pick up a book, somebody has taught you their step-by-step process and how to avoid the pitfalls. But for some reason, we feel like we still got to drudge through the mud of the uphill journey. Not necessarily. It's a matter of studying the right things. So the V stands for visualization. Now, think about the word visualize. Visual eyes. You have to see that thing into fruition before it actually happens. And if you can't see it in your head, you can't see it in your hand, therefore you actually will not have it. So I want to do a little drill with you guys from a visualization standpoint. I want you guys to close your eyes, take a deep breath. Now I want you to imagine a hallway. Nice bright colors, paved with gold. And there's a door at the end of this hallway. And you're walking down this hallway. Now on the other side of that door is your future self. And they have an important message for you. Now when you open this door, you have to really listen closely. Because whatever they tell you is that thing that you have been needing to understand and to grow from that's going to get you to that next level. Now, I don't know what that thing is. Now, I want you to open that door and I want you to walk through it and I want you to listen very closely. And when you open your eyes, whatever that thing is, I need you to write it down on that card and that becomes your new focal point. Now, open your eyes. You don't have to tell me what it is. This is an internal process between you and your future self. But write that thing down on the back of the card. Now, how do we get there? The P is for perform. This is where all-out massive action comes into play. You can't tiptoe into your dreams. You have to go out and live full time. I heard one of my mentors, Scott Ross, say, if you set yourself on fire, people will come from miles and states away to watch you burn. Now, I don't mean literally go out into the parking lot, put some kerosene on you and set yourself on fire. I mean, you need to go out all-out massive action with a burning desire that nothing is going to stop you from getting to your goal. Now, think about what that looks like. What sacrifices do you have to make? See, people look at sacrifices as a bad thing, but sacrifice is giving up something of a lower nature to achieve something of a higher nature. But you got to RSVP for it. You have to check that box and let your future self know, I'm on my way to meet you there. Because they've already told you what you needed to do. Now it's up to you to move in the right direction and do it. So now that you have your card and you have your instructions, I need you to check that box and RSVP for your future. Mr. Toastmaster.